Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Chalmley. This is another video in the Cheshire Churches series, and this is the Church of St Mary, Bosley. Originally it was called Bosley because this is Macclesfield Forest, and this was, as a forest meant in those days, in the Norman period, it was a royal hunting ground, and the great sport around here was pig sticking. Ride after wild boar with a big lance and stick them. A joyful life, so I'm told, but pig sticking, of course, is quite non-PC these days. There are no wild boar here anymore, haven't been for a long time. Maybe sometime they'll reintroduce the species, but now Bosley is a little village by the side of the road from Congleton to Macclesfield, or is it, no, Leek to Macclesfield rather here. And that means that when you go outside there will be some traffic noise. The church here, there's been a church here since the Middle Ages. The original church here is built in 1401, and it's built of wood, very much like the churches that we saw at Pever and at Siddington, and the old church that existed, and we saw the remains of the chancel at, where was that place? Swettenham, at Swettenham, yes. However, the old church was destroyed by fire in the 1770s, and the current building then replaces that. There is a medieval tower, like Pever. There was a stone tower built on in the late 15th, early 16th centuries, and that was the residence of the priest, because of course, Middle Ages, you're talking about celibate priests. They don't have big libraries, so you can just put him up in the tower and you know what he's doing, and he can look after the church, and if he needs a bit more space in the week and there's no services on, well. But also, of course, seriously, because a medieval priest is about saying the Mass, then it's important for him to be able to get to the church every day, several times a day, to say Mass for the souls of the departed. So there we are, that's a little bit of the history. Let's have a look around. It's a very simple building, but very lovely in my view. And the standard opening, we shall start at the west end, as usual, because that's basically the entrance, that's where you come in. Now, during the 17th century, one of the incumbents, 1640 to 1669, was or probably only part of that, was a John Gartside. He was a Puritan, and he refused to read the Book of Sports, and so he was pulled bodily from the pulpit by the local squire, who was offended by this. The Book of Sports was a declaration about what sports you could play on a Sunday, and of course, as a Puritan, Gartside believed there aren't any sports you're allowed to play on a Sunday. And we'll see his pulpit later on. Of course, as built in the 18th century, it would originally have had box pews. They've all been taken out. There were Victorian pews put in. Some of them are still here, but at the back we've also got modern movable chairs. The font is medieval and has been somewhat redone because it was, for a while, it was in somebody's farmyard as a trough, but never mind. This is a reconstruction, or this is a picture of the original building, and you can see a very simple thatch roof as Siddington had originally, and that tower. Simple windows, there's a few memorials. This is probably the most impressive, John Willans Noel, railway contractor who died December the 21st, 1851, aged 45, and Sarah, his widow. Second daughter Nathan Percival of Kilnhill, Bosley, who died May the 22nd, 1875, aged 66. And then we've got a little bit of stained glass. You can see this is very much neoclassical, isn't it? And then we've got stained glass, Blessed of the Pure in Heart. That's got the presentation of Christ in the Temple. This is a 1890s memorial. We have St Christopher there at the back, and I'm looking at this and thinking, I'm not quite sure what this picture shows, but never mind. Memorial there to Prince Philip, and a bit more stained glass. Percival Noel there. Nave communion table, and this is the Jacobean pulpit. Now this is where Mr. Gartside was pulled out of bodily when he was assaulted. It was restored by Mr. and Mrs. S.A. Holland in memory of their son, Michael Frank William Holland, February 1961. But this is a proper Puritan pulpit. We know a real Puritan was in here, and he was assaulted for doing it. And this is this is the musical window, the musician window, and we have King David, an angel, and then George Frederick Handel. At the bottom we have our surpliced choir. Screen, obviously this is 19th century, and a fairly shallow chancel because that's what they did things. The organ here was presented for the glory of God, in honour of his worship. This organ is presented by Joseph Stubbs, Esquire of Bosley, July 1879. Looks like a double manual with pedal board. There's the old chest. Like the pulpit, it was rescued from the church before the fire. The chancel is quite simple. You've got, because it is St Mary, so you've got this great big Virgin and Child in the east window, which is a triple lancet. And this looks like it's probably a later addition, this chancel, but it's early 19th century. Nice bit of woodwork, carved woodwork here. And here we have the memory of Anne Matilda, beloved wife of N. Henry Stevens, Esquire of Finsbury Circus, London, who died February 1860, aged 41 years. She always feared her God and loved her Saviour. Therefore she is not dead, but sleepeth. So I have a nice view west. Again, it's a great big barn of a place because it's here for Reformed worship. It's not for your sacramental type worship. It's built as a Protestant church, although of course it's been altered over the years. But there we have it. That's the inside here at Bosley. So we'll just go to the door here. I'll just pause and have a look at the eagle lectern. That's again, it's a very, very Victorian thing. They like to do this. This is in memory of Charles Peel of the Manor House, North Road, born at Genoa, July the 8th, 1837, died at Oban, July the 18th, 1889. So there we have the lectern, and again we have here in fact this brass commemorates this chapel. Was enlarged in the year 1834, by which means 110 additional sittings were obtained in consequence of a grant from the Incorporated Society for Promoting the Enlargement, Building and Repairing of Churches and Chapels. 100 of that number are hereby declared to be free and unappropriated sittings forever, in addition to 300 appropriated sittings formerly provided. So this is a chapel. It's not a church. And what that means is that it's subject to a mother church. I'm not quite sure which one, quite possibly Macclesfield here, but that's the enlargement in the 1830s. So having said that, we will now head outside through that nice ever-open door. And so here we are outside at St Mary's, Bosley. Now there's going to be traffic noise, we're next to a main road, that's how it goes. But you can see here immediately we've got our nice medieval tower, 15th, 16th century, and then this nice, there's a local dog has decided to start off, and this nice 18th century nave, and then you've got this chancel on the end, little chancel on the end. And very simple building, very plain. And there's not a lot to say about the outside beyond that really, but we'll have a tour around and I'll point out a few salient features. There goes a great big lorry. And you can just about see here in the south wall the mark where the old south doorway was. Now that tower, the top has been added in the 19th century, the battlements, but below that you've got the belfry, and below the belfry you would have had where the priest lived. And that was actually into the post-Reformation period. You had the priest living in there. Nice chancel, very small, because again it's a Protestant church, you don't need a whacking great chancel. They didn't go in for road choirs and all that kind of thing in those days. There is no internal staircase. for the tower, the priest had to go up and down a ladder. Kept him fit. And you see sticking out here on the south side, that's the modern toilets, modern toilet block. Very important these days. Again, time was it wasn't. Time was that it was a corner of the churchyard or a chamber pot, and I apologise for being a little bit crude, but that's what it was. So here we are again going on the outside. Remember that this is a medieval church originally, and it's wooden and it's rebuilt after a fire, because obviously if your building catches fire and it's wooden, that's kind of fatal to it. And there we have that nice tower. You see the vestry with it is now balanced by the toilet block, which is rather nice. Ancient trees. That's a very ancient tree there. And we're just by the side of the main road. And you can see here, again, it's the sun in that particular position. You can see here this nice 18th century brickwork. You can also see the end there. That has been, that window surround has been completely replaced, whereas these are the original window surrounds, even round the vestry. So, I'm not sure there's very much else to say about this building, other than to take us round to look at the outside of the tower. Now, there's a bit of a drop onto the pathway, so I've got to be careful I don't do myself a mischief. It's so easy to do. But there's the tower here, and we'll have to go back towards it, otherwise I shall injure myself, and I don't want to do that. Vestry again, and the brick is another important point of this brick. It's a nice 18th century brick. It's relatively narrow. I can get down here, that's all right. It's a bit of a step. Hold on, someone's grave. And here we see the west end and this lovely medieval tower, the oldest part of the building. This is, of course, the modern war memorial, the missing man. So that's the west end, and that door, that room above the door, that would have been where the priest lived back in the day. So that's the outside really here at St Mary's, Bosley. And so there we have it, another lovely example of an 18th century building attached to this tower. And it's one of these cases where there had to be an 18th century building because the medieval building burned to the ground. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoy making this. It's still a lovely day here out, and we're really in the bottom of the Peak District, almost the Peak District, in the Cheshire part of it. Well, again, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until the next time.